So we're actually going to start with the very first segment of this conversation, which we're going to be looking at defining cultural identity through design. And we have worked on a lot of amazing design projects, and that has really shaped a lot. And the very first question I'm going to ask you about this topic is, how does design help preserve and promote cultural identity? So far, as a designer, how do you think that is actually helping to promote and preserve, cultural identity? And also, you can also look at it as well from an African context with, young designers that are coming up as well.
People used to say, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. So by understanding that, gives you some type of perspective, how to, from the beginning, understand your culture and your background and your roots. So for me, I had to, I wanted to do a lot of stuff, and I realized that I was trying to, emulate only the things that I've, been taught here in Europe, and everything that I've seen here in Europe. So I wasn't actually looking back home for some time. I wasn't looking back home for any, design inspiration. I was looking at Japan. I was looking at China, because I felt like Japan was one of my, biggest inspiration sources. So I was always looking at the culture like, wow, these guys are creating amazing stuff. But then, after some years, I realized that, the reason why these Japanese people has a rich, very rich design culture is because they've always, transfer the culture to the next generation. But, for us Africans, something happened with slavery. After slavery, it comes colonialism, and colonialism came with a system that, indoctrinate Africans not to think about their culture and themselves. Whatever that happens in our villages, that was something that was beyond their control. But in the bigger cities, that was all control. So that, we were indoctrinated by their school system. We didn't even know where, our founding fathers are from. Like all the towns in Cameroon, who founded them? We don't know. Everything that we own, we don't even know where they're coming from, because we don't teach them in school. And I started realizing like, yo, maybe I'm actually looking at the wrong direction. Let me actually dig deeper into, going back home and try to understand where I'm from and what makes us us. Because I realized that our school system was not favoring us at all. Because the stuff that we learn in school, Christopher Columbus, all this stuff about, Europeans and stuff, but nothing about us, nothing about our own history, nothing about our design culture, music, or whatsoever. Even up to today, there's no like music lessons in Cameroon that, the young, generation can learn. Like, okay, this is what we did in the 70s. We were doing Makosa. We were doing these other things. But it's just in the back of our head that we did Makosa. But we are not even studying what was the impact of Makosa, because Makosa actually impact the world of music that we're listening today very, very much. And of course, our people don't know this because we don't study these things. Sculpture, you can name it, architecture, you can name it. There's so much more. So I started diving deep into, understanding where I was from and also what our people did before. Then prior to that, I was thinking, okay, how can I, because, those were like, really old stuff. Compared to China or Japan, what the people are doing is that they take all the old stuff they did, like ancient Japan or ancient China, they redesign them. You can actually see the traces of these designs when you look at, Japanese designs or Chinese designs. So I was going back looking into our stuff like, okay, what can we change here? What did we actually do in the past? And how can I transcend that to modern day, the way that we live today, the way we move, the way we interact with each other? So for me, preserving, design as an identity is going back to understand where we're coming from, so that we know how we can design our way forward. Because everything is basically a design. And the reason why we struggle economically in Africa is because we don't design anymore.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kevin. I think this topic is very important because design right now in our community is really from Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, right? we were actually coming up, and we are the younger generations. We are actually paying attention to design. But I think, conversations like this are very important because we are paying attention to design in a very shallow way and in a very wrong way. You go on LinkedIn and everybody has it on their bio. Oh, I'm a designer, right? And then you ask them, what are you actually designing? Or what is your process of coming up with a design? Or what's your thought process of coming up with a design? And you find a lot of people who are on LinkedIn and all of these platforms who basically go on Canva, recreate stuff that other people have done, and then put it out there and call themselves designers. And so I think webinars like this are very important because we are looking at design from a very deeper perspective. We are looking at design from a more in-depth perspective, and understanding that as designers, our words are truly powerful and they are really shaping our culture. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, in what ways can designers use their word to tell like real authentic cultural stories?
I feel like we can still go back to what I said earlier about from knowing where you're coming from. It's like your compass. Once you know where you're coming from, then it's easy to know where you're going. And telling that stories is trying to tell it from a window where you create more possibilities. You open the mind of the people that are listening to tell them, hey, this is where we are today, and this is where we're going. Of course, some people are going to follow, and some people are going to say, no, this is not good. This is not good for the culture. This is not good for our identity. We're tarnishing our culture and image or whatsoever. But everybody has an idea of where we want to go. So the more we share ideas to each other, the more better we can shape our future.
Thank you so much, Kevin.